Hello, everybody. Oh, I don't know if it's going live yet. There we go. Hi, everybody. So good to be here. Sorry I'm a couple of minutes late. I honestly just really wanted to enjoy the sunshine, so I was out for a walk and got a little bit carried away. So, hey, Cindy, thanks for being here. I had a very special moment with a tree, and it was not worth passing up to to be here on time for this. So I just appreciate your grace in that and understanding that. So welcome to February's Q&A. If you've never been here before and you aren't familiar with me, hi, my name is Rachel Leah Gerson. I am a metaphysical practitioner and owner and operator of Doorway to Self, where I combine counseling techniques with psychic tools to help you understand your best self, how to access your best self and your best mental health. Um, I do want to note if you see me looking back and forth, it's because I've got Instagram over here and Facebook over here. So I am looking at both of y'all. And I just, I want to try and help this education to spread to as many people as possible so that we can really spark this mental health revolution. So, the way that this works is if you have sent in questions anonymously, I will be answering them. You're also welcome to ask questions live via the comment boxes on Facebook or Instagram. You can just pop your question in. This is not a live gallery reading, so meaning if you have any personal psychic questions, that's not what this is about. This is more about education on the psychic world and the world of mental health in general. So, if you're wanting some more kind of personal attention, you're more than welcome to book a private session or a private reading with me. Hey, Pat, thanks for being here. So that's what's up. I'm going to go ahead and start answering some of these anonymous questions that came through because there were a lot this month. Y'all were really curious this month and wanting to learn. So that, of course, always lights me up with so much joy. So I'm very happy to be answering all of these questions today. And then at some point, when the time feels right, I will be pulling a card for the collective as well. I know that the full moon energy that we're in today and yesterday has been very, very intense. Lots of you feeling kind of this up and down energy that's going on, kind of this inability to really perceive where all of the emotions are coming from, because there are so many emotions right now being felt on an individual level and therefore on a collective level, which is then perpetuating the individual level. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more because one of the anonymous questions that came in asked about that. But I did promise that I was going to ask a question or answer a question that came in before last month's live, and the hour was over before I was able to get to this question. So I really want to make sure that I answer this first so that it is not missed and we get to it. So the question is this: Hi, Rachel. I am so excited for your talk today about psychic and mental health. I have wanted to connect with you for a long time about my daughter. She has ADD and ADHD and is very sensitive to energy, etc. I would love to know more of your interpretation of these, quote, diseases, for lack of a better word, because I don't believe they are, that's in parentheses, and how they connect spiritually, etc. Thank you so much for doing what you do. Um, Such a potent question. Such a potent question. Hey, Becky, thanks for being here. Hey, Heel Talk, thanks for being here. Um, love the colors in your painting. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm actually at my parents' house in Grand Rapids right now, so that's what you're seeing behind me. Yeah, my background looks a little bit different than you're used to. I didn't state that at the beginning. I probably should have. Thank you, Becky. I appreciate that. Okay, let me get to answering this question. So, what is the energy of ADD? And I probably, honestly, am going to at some point do a full podcast episode on this because every mental illness deserves a full deep dive of like 30 minutes to an hour just explaining kind of the surface of what's going on energetically there. I want to start out by just acknowledging this idea of this specific sentence. I would love to know more of your interpretation of these, quote, diseases, for lack of a better word, because I don't believe they are. So I want to just kind of give my 2 cents on that part specifically, because I do actually believe in mental illness. I do actually believe mental illness exists. But I don't believe that the diagnosis of mental illness is the end game, right? So we're taught like, oh, you have ADD, and therefore that's a lifetime diagnosis, and that is the final step in the process, is being given this diagnosis of ADD. I look at it more as, okay, great. The ADD diagnosis is the middle point. The ADD diagnosis is this point where we can say, okay, this is you have ADD, or you have ADHD, or you have depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, whatever it is, fill in the blank. You have this diagnosis of this thing. And so now that we can see what these symptoms of mental illness are presenting as, in the form of a diagnosis, we can then begin to deconstruct what's going on energetically with you. What are your psychic senses, and where are you mishandling your relation to those psychic senses? Hey Cannon, thanks for being here. So that's kind of how I tend to look at it. So with this diagnosis of ADD, I do believe your daughter has ADD, assuming she's been formally diagnosed. I do believe your daughter has ADD. But I think that the ADD is basically an explanation of this maladapted way in which she's approaching energy. And that is presenting, therefore, as the mental illness. So I'll state this in another way, because I'm feeling some people very confused on the other end of this. So I'll state this in another way. When I was diagnosed with bipolar 1, I do actually 100% believe I had bipolar 1. I don't think I was misdiagnosed. I do 100% believe I had bipolar 1 and was able to heal the bipolar 1 and step out on the other side to mental health. That is my belief. That is how I perceive it. Where my maladaptive approach to my psychic senses presented as bipolar, or became bipolar, manifested as bipolar, where that happened is I was not able to hone my abilities as an empath or as a clairsentient, to be able to separate out what was my energy, what was not my energy. And I was therefore taking everything in and not knowing how to filter it, and getting overwhelmed and losing myself in the process, and et cetera, so on and so forth. And so it was manifesting as these major manic or depressive episodes, therefore creating bipolar disorder. So where I see that happening with ADD specifically is connection. What's going on here? Okay, we're back. We're good. Cool. ADD is a diagnosis that I believe happens when people are, their brains are operating in a way that society has decided is dysfunctional. Okay? So this is a little bit different than this diagnosis of bipolar that I was explaining, because ADD I think is very, very different on that level. It is, ADD is people who are unable to focus and organize their thinking and stick to one task and are kind of all over the place. Like those are all symptoms of ADD or ADHD. ADHD would also be paired with some anger stuff as well. Um and I'm going to get there. So basically, I do think that the ADD diagnosis is, if I'm being completely honest, a little bit nonsensical because it's essentially society saying, oh, you have something wrong with you because you can't operate in the way that we think that people with optimum operation should operate. I feel like I'm being very wordy today, you guys. Really trying to get to the point of this. Um, yeah. So basically, people with ADD, I think, have, and I feel like there's somebody watching with ADD right now, which is why it's hard for me to kind of like get my words out of my mouth in a proper way. Because like my brain keeps going all over the place. I guess I'm just like sinking into the energy of ADD over here. Um, yeah, it's basically society has said you cannot operate in the way that we think you should be operating, and so therefore you have a mental illness. But actually, I think that there can be a lot of strengths to ADD. I think there can be a lot of strengths to this kind of like scatterbrained, as we perceive it, right? As people who don't have ADD or ADHD perceive it, this kind of scatterbrained all over the place. But in my understanding of the energy of that is basically people with ADD are able to tap into all of these different arenas all at the same time and like connect these dots really really quickly. And so it's not that they're dysfunctional, it's that they're functioning on a completely different level. They're functioning in a different way. And that operation is actually channeling in more creativity than other people might be able to form their brains around. Um, so there's that. As far as ADHD goes, I think that a lot of the hyperactivity and specifically the anger outbursts that can come and accompany that hyperactivity happen because this child is then feeling as though they're not allowed to function in the ways that they're functioning, or person. It could be a grown person too, but specifically answering this person's question, the child. So that's where I think these anger outbursts come from, because it's kind of like you're trying to squash all of their bigness into a box, and you're trying to like give their what we perceive as a lack of direction, we're trying to give it direction. And they're having this anger and they're feeling this anger because they're like, no, but this is direction. Like, even though it's perceived as being all over the place, it is direction and it is directed. Um, so yeah. Anyways, I hope that that helps. I hope that that answer helps this person to relate to their child on a different level. Um, and thank you so much for that awesome question. Hey, Jenny, thanks for being here. All right. I'm feeling a lot of people just being like, Rachel, get to the point of this up and down energy right now, because I feel y'all. I feel y'all. Okay, we're going to talk about that. So here's this next anonymous question that came in. I have been feeling fantastic lately. High energy, zest for life, self love coming easily. But yesterday and today, it's like I can't access it anymore. Is something going on out there? And then this person messaged me. This was 2 days ago when they sent this in. And then this person messaged me yesterday and they were like, actually, just kidding. All good. I'm feeling great again. Um, this is this is our collective right now. This is collective energy that's happening. This kind of like bloop, 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 that's happening really, really quickly. And for some of you, it's like every couple of days your mood shifts. Sometimes it's every day. Others of you, it's like every hour. That's honestly where I'm at. It's like, oh, boom, okay, I'm feeling grief now all of a sudden out of nowhere. Okay, let's dive into that. Or sometimes it's um all of a sudden like a big bomb will drop, and like all of these shadows will just like appear out of nowhere. Like you like feel like you got to the top of this mountain, you're like, oh, everything is unveiled for me, this is amazing, and then it's like all the shadows appear again, and it's like, okay, guess we're going here now. And so, hey Jenny, thanks for being here. Oh my gosh, is that a bridge? Oh no, it's a roller coaster. I love that. It's a roller coaster ride. Yes. And that's exactly what this is. We're on a roller coaster ride right now. Um, all these up and down emotions, all of these up and down pinnacles in life in general, where it's just like all of the shadows are unsurfacing. So I want to speak to this from three levels here. One is one is where do I want to go first? One is the stellium that we experience. So I'm going astrology here. When I'm speaking three levels of astrology here that I'm going to dig into. One is the stellium that we experienced in the beginning to middle of February. A stellium is when there are three or more planets in any given sign at the same time. This is not necessarily an occurrence that happens very regularly. It's semi rare. Semi rare. What was very rare, however, was to have all of the solar and planetary entities that we did in Aquarius at that given time when we did. So many of you remember, I'm sure, the Saturn Jupiter conjunction that happened in Aquarius in December. I did a full video on February's crazy stellium astrology on Instagram Live in the beginning of the month. So if you guys want to learn more about all of this, I highly suggest going back and checking that out. If you're on Facebook, if you're watching this on Facebook, it's at Doorway to Self on Instagram. I do a lot of lives on there. So, and actually maybe I did this one on Facebook simultaneously. I might have done that. Anyways, regardless, there were a ton of planets in Aquarius. So we had Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, the sun and the moon all occupying the sign of Aquarius from the beginning to the middle of February. What this did was basically open up a giant portal for the age of Aquarius to come in, for those energies to come in. This has basically become a huge nudge for big psychic opening. So tons of people having awakenings who have never had an awakening before, tons of people who already had awakenings having second, third, fourth, fifth awakenings, several people going through big dark nights of the soul. I mean, just like all sorts of stuff. Basically, our entire collective is awakening all at once, even if subconsciously on a big level. So, those of us who are, well, no, I don't even want to say that. Our collective is waking up. And when we had this stellium, and specifically when we experienced the new moon in Aquarius on February 11th, it was this big opening. And so that's kind of when you probably noticed that these ups and downs were starting to occur. So that was 2 weeks ago. So for the last 2 weeks is what we're talking, is kind of like this boom, riding the wave. What's happening is we are anchoring in the energies of the quote new earth, right? This kind of bigger paradigm than where we're at currently. We are stepping out of, well, not even out of the three 3D reality. I don't want to say that because I think that that's harmful. We are stepping more deeply into the 3D realities as fifth dimensional beings, as sixth, 10th, 12th dimensional beings. We are really anchoring in these other dimensional realities into our 3D reality. That is what we are currently experiencing, which means that massive, massive, massive shadow work has to occur first. Because what's happening is we're being asked right now to shed everything so that we can step into these energies more fully, more presently, more aware, and closer to the light and closer to our own individual selves. Aquarius as a sign is asking us to step into our individuality, to step into our core selves, to step into our full power, our personal gifts, what we showed up to do here on this earth in this lifetime. It's calling for us to be able to look at ourselves and say, oh, what I've been told my whole life is too weird or too extraordinary or too, you know, something too shameful or too outside the box, whatever it is. Whatever it is, these parts of ourselves that have been squashed, we're now coming to this point where the stars and the planets and our moon are asking for us to see the true gifts in who we are and to reclaim those gifts from wherever they were squashed to. So this is a time of self-reclamation. And in self-reclamation, we're going to be hitting those shadows. We're going to be facing those shadows big, 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 big time. It's basically like a giant test for us, saying, okay, you really want to step into yourself? Are you really here? Are you really here to serve the planet? Are you really here to serve humanity in this way? Are you really here to show up fully in your gifts? Well, great. Then you have to shed all of this other stuff. So that was the kickstart. Was like February 2nd-ish through the 11th-ish. That was the kickstart. That was the kickstarting point. So for the last 2 to 4 weeks, you have likely been experiencing all of this. These ups and downs, these needing to face yourself, face your position as you relate to the collective, etc., so on and so forth. So that's part one. Part two is this full moon that we are currently experiencing the energies of. Now, in 12 sign astrology, this full moon occupied the sign of Virgo, and our sun currently occupies the sign of Pisces. However, if we look at our actual sky and the way that things align, we would see that where the sun is in our sky actually is Aquarius still. And that therefore, because the moon is directly opposite the sun, the moon is occupying Leo. Leo is directly opposite Aquarius. And so this full moon, what it has been asking us to do is really face those shadows. Really face those shadows big, big, big time. Because it's saying, oh, okay, so you want to step into your individuality. Let's look at the opposite. Let's look at the opposite. Like if Aquarius is representative of all of your uniqueness, everything that you are, Leo is representative of everything that you do to put on an external show, to step into what you don't fully believe you are, or to put on an external show as a distraction for others, so kind of as a mask, or to get distracted by external drama. And so that's what this full moon is doing, is basically bringing up all of the shadows possible that we need to help clear out anything that's getting in the way of us being our fullest, truest selves, stepping into mission, being on our path, etc. So that's part 2, astrologically. Part 3, astrologically. If you are between the ages of 28 and 30, or if you are between the ages of like 56 to 60, or if you are between the ages of around 80 to 87 or so, you are going through what is called the Saturn return. A Saturn return is something you can honestly read about on my blog because it's going to take too long to explain. But in essence, it's when Saturn returns to the exact same place in your birth chart where it was when you were born. Right now, Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius. So those of you who were born with Saturn in Aquarius, you are experiencing your Saturn return. You have been feeling the last month or the last 2 months really, really, really strongly. Because this stellium that I was speaking about is happening where your Saturn is. Which means that all of the planets that are there, or that were there, Mercury, communication, Venus, relationships and self-love and sex and sexuality and appearances and passion and purpose, Jupiter, career, abundance mindset, money, relation to political systems, etc. What am I missing? The sun, personality, the moon, emotions, specifically the new moon turning inward. What does it mean to turn inward? Inner guidance, etc. All of those things are being highlighted for you as shadows to work through. So it's a lot. And I feel you there. I'm right here, midst of my Saturn return. Woohoo! Right along with you. So if you are in those age ranges that I just mentioned, you have likely been feeling this up-down thing that's been happening, the roller coaster ride, even more on height than anybody else. So that's the third thing I wanted to speak to astrologically as to why we're experiencing the energies we're experiencing right now. The last portion of this is what I started to speak about in the very beginning of this video, which was when we are experiencing our own individual stuff and it's happening at the exact same time as so many other people in the collective, it becomes a collective energy. Or the planets or whatever, the general energies that are happening are infiltrating the collective and then seeping down to an individual level. Or both and. And I prefer to go with the both and variation. The deal with the both and variation is that it feeds off of itself. Okay? So as you're experiencing your own individual crap, it's then putting in, or I shouldn't say crap, enlightenment. As you're experiencing your own individual enlightenment, that may feel like crap in the moment, but really it's enlightenment. Let's be real here. As you are experiencing that individually, the energy is reverberating out into the collective. And as the collective is experiencing its own what feels like crap but is actually enlightenment, it's reverberating back to you. And so this energy begins cycling. You are literally energetically cycling with the collective, and the collective is energetically cycling with you, with all of us. That is the bigness that we are currently feeling. This is the roller coaster ride. This is the reason for the roller coaster ride, because we are literally energetically like just like cycling back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, just giving feedback to one another. Oh, okay, the collective's going to go through this experience. Well, that's going to give me feedback energetically to have this shadow then reflected outward for me to look at and work through. Okay, so I'm going to do that shadow work or not. Maybe you don't do the shadow work and then you go through whatever drama or pain or whatever comes from that. And then you experience that. That energy goes outward into the collective. The collective then experiences that energy from all of the individuals who are also experiencing this. And then it becomes a collective thing. So this just keeps going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I feel a lot of you calming down a lot listening to exactly that explanation. You are welcome. It's a lot right now, you guys. It's a lot. There's so much. There is so much. Um, and so I actually just feel called at the moment to just all together at this point, sink into your heart space if you can access that right now. Maybe close your eyes, sink into this space, take a deep breath in through the nose, and shush it out through the mouth. Do another one, this time breathing in connection to self, breathing in truth, and breathing out any excess energy that's not yours. Yeah. This is big stuff, you guys. The good news is that 12 sign astrology is still backing us energetically too. So this full moon in Virgo specifically is also giving us an action plan, and it's also helping us to understand how to be able to kind of charge forward in truth, how to be able to find the roadmap to truth. And that's really what's happening right now is we are at a very rapid rate as individuals and as a collective. We are working to uncover the truth and working to live into that. That's what's up. That is what's up. Oh my gosh, Becky. Haha, Rachel, you're cutting right through me. Thank you. You're so welcome. I'm so glad that this was so resonant for you. I really want to make sure that I am able to see. I'm not seeing any comments coming out on Facebook, so I just want to make sure. This is really weird. Okay. Well, I hope I haven't missed y'all's comments on Facebook, because if I have, just know it's a tech thing. I don't mean to ignore you or anything like that. Okay. Let's jump into another question over here. And I think that this is actually very related to everything that I just talked about. It's a big one. It's a long one. So I'm just going to read the whole thing. And there are many facets to this, so I actually am going to probably pause in between and then continue reading it. I have been hearing quite a bit about energetic boundaries and would like another opinion. While visiting with a friend of mine, when we hugged, it felt much different than before. It felt awkward and like there was a barrier. I wondered if this was the energetic boundary that he had been talking about. It didn't feel as loving as I remember in the past. Perhaps because I have been unconsciously tapping into the energy of others, as it's so natural, but now that he's created boundaries, it feels like he's not there. I'll just keep reading. I'm just trying to make sense of my experience and how to navigate going forward with my own boundaries, what that means in terms of health, and still being able to love people and have them feel it. Is it even possible? I've been working with Reiki and energy more these days, and how that relates to boundaries as well, because in order to work on someone, I would have to tap in and feel what's going on with them. Feeling confused a bit and would appreciate some clarity. If you feel open, let me know what you think. Thanks, loving you, and take care. All right, y'all. This question is jam-packed. Jam-packed. So I want to speak to the first part of this question first. This idea of there being an energetic boundary that is built that then you can't potentially feel the love of the person as you otherwise would have. This happens in three main scenarios that I can think of. One, and I know this person and I know who they were talking about, and I do know that these two individuals used to date. And so there's something really specific in this dynamic that when people switch their relationships, when people switch the form in which they're relating to one another, sometimes in order to make that transition smoother from romantic or sexual into friendship, sometimes what needs to happen is the person who is needing to feel safest in that dynamic, and that might be both people, or multiple people if you're in a poly relationship, the person who is needing to feel safest within this new dynamic will scale back their energy, because it's the only way that they know how to transition. They're trying to learn how to feel love for you in a new and different way that is still unconditional, but that's not romantic or sexual, I should say. And trying to navigate that, and trying to navigate what does it mean to come into this unconditionally loving place from this new lens of friendship can be specifically difficult if you don't first come to a neutral space to be able to come out of the romance lens and into the friendship lens. So I would not be worried about this being something that takes place for a long period of time, and especially just knowing this individual. I would not be worried about this being a thing that happens forever. But for the greater collective who is listening to this, there are going to be certain people who come into your lives who just aren't able to open their heart space again. And that's really, really freaking painful. That's so painful. And you don't have any control over that, unfortunately. What you do have control over is yourself. What you do have control over is your own love. And so you can decide if you feel safe being able to be in a space of unconditional love with this other person. Do you feel safe with that? And if you do, then go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. And if they feel uncomfortable by that, then that's their own shadow work to do. And if you're afraid of them leaving, if you show up in that way, then that's your shadow work to do. It's very specific. So I don't think, I do think that it has to do with energetic boundaries. Absolutely. This other person is setting up an energetic boundary. But it's not so much necessarily for you. It's more for them. It's so that they feel safe, because they, like, Yeah. It's so that they feel safe. Um, they feel safe that nothing's going to be misconstrued on your end, and they feel safe that they're not going to feel things that they don't believe they should be feeling anymore. I'm just rereading this question here so that I don't miss anything. Perhaps I have been unconsciously tapping into the energy of others. So that has nothing to do with this. I'm just going to state that right off the bat. That has absolutely nothing to do with this. This is not about you being able to tap in or not tap in, and there's nothing wrong with you that you've been like going into their energy or anything like that. No, what was created, what usually is created in these situations is that the love is mutual and the love is there. And when one person creates energetic boundaries around that, or the dynamic shifts from unconditional love from one lens to another lens, it is a cutting off of their energy, not of your ability. How do I word this? It's a cutting off of their energy. And it's not that you used to tap into them, it's that they're no longer meeting you where you are at. And I feel like this is really, really an important point for so many people to hear right now. It's not that you were being an energetic vampire. It's not that you were trying to take energy from them. And maybe you were. And if you were, then that's for you to figure out. Hey, Eric, thanks for being here. That's for you to figure out. But for the most part, usually in these scenarios, it's just about the other person is not meeting you where they used to meet you, and they're not meeting you where you are at. And so you feel that absence there. And that's really, really painful. That's really painful. I've been there before. It sucks. So I feel for you. And the best healing of that is going to be time and communication. Really conscious, intentional communication. Yeah, and but then here's the part that is like a little red flaggy to me. In order to work on someone, I have to tap in and feel what's going on with them in relation to doing Reiki. So that's not something that I would necessarily say is an ethical psychic practice. Um, it is something that I think a lot of kind of beginning practitioners do, and I would definitely say I did that in the beginning, not with Reiki, but with my modalities of energy work that I do. It's easy to feel like you need to tap in to their energy. What should be happening with energy work is that you are a hollow vessel. And I know me saying that is going to raise some eyebrows and bring some fear out in some people, because it brought fear out in me when I was not ready to hear it. I was like, oh my gosh, wait, so you mean I'm going to be devoid of my energy and I'm just going to be like this hollow vessel for other people's energies to come through? And that sounds dangerous and blah, blah, blah. And when explaining it that way, yes, that is incredibly dangerous. Do not do that. I am not shipping that. That is also very unethical. What I'm speaking to is the ability to occupy your body, occupy your space, and also ask for source, universe, God, goddess, whatever you call it, to help you to become a fluid channel for healing. So that the other person's, you are not tapping into their energy. You are not entering their energy field as you. You are entering their energy field as source. And I wouldn't even say entering their energy field. Like you just become with their energy field as source. Um, it's an integrative experience. I I want to kind of metaphorically relate it to a waterfall, right? Like you see a waterfall cascading over a cliff, and the water just falls. It doesn't attach anywhere. It doesn't freeze. It just falls. And that's it. And so if you envision yourself as this cliff and the other person's energy as the waterfall, it just goes. That's it. Are you touching it? Yeah. Are you holding space for it to be there? Yeah. Is it entering you? No. Are you entering it? No. The cliff doesn't enter the waterfall. It just is there, and the waterfall is there. Like that's how energy work should be operating. Um so yeah, I think that's the last part of this question I wanted to speak to. Yeah. I really hope that that's helpful to not only this person but other people who are watching, whether live or the replay, because this was a really juicy question. There were a lot of really important parts to this. So all right, let's see what's next. I recently started having a spiritual awakening. I got hit with many visions and voices all at once from meditation. But I noticed once I was in a calm state, I can feel energy around me, even feel myself in their bodies, looking at things from their perspective. At first, I'll get the chills and I'll taste what they're around or smoking or eating, or even if they brush their teeth. I'm very curious as to how I can control this more because it comes and goes. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. So this is something that has been pervasive in the collective for the last year or so, is all of a sudden people like experiencing 10,000 psychic senses all at once, all on height. And so firstly, I want to say to you that can be scary as hell, and you got through it. So congratulations on your strength and resiliency. Um, uh, so let's break this down here. I got hit with many visions. That's some clairvoyance. That's psychic sight, and voices all at once from meditation. Voices, clairaudience, psychic hearing. But I noticed once I was in a calm state, I can feel energy around me and even feel myself in other people's bodies. So I can feel their energy. That sounds to me like some clairsentience, right? Because there's this direct pinpointing of like the feeling of another person's energy. So that psychic feeling of energy. I can feel energy around me, even feel myself in their bodies, looking at things from their perspective. That would be some clairempathy, big time there. But also, so the ability to feel another person's feelings, emotions, etc. It's also astral travel at the same time, because you're leaving your body and you're going into their body completely. Looking at things from their perspective, clairvoyance, at first, and then I'll get the chills, more clairsentience. I'll taste what they're around or smoking or eating, or even if they brush their teeth, clairgustance, that psychic taste. I'm very curious as to how I can control this more because it comes and goes. Thank you so much. So the first thing I'm going to say here is, it sounds like you are missing an anchor. You're missing an anchor into your body. Like if all of a sudden your energy is able to like leave your body and to go into somebody else's body, it sounds like there is a lack of boundaries for yourself. In terms of my energy needs to stay in my body. So you might want to look at setting some of those boundaries. And if that still happens, then maybe asking yourself some questions, diving into some shadow work around, why do I feel like I need to leave my body? Or why doesn't it feel safe for me to be in my body? Or what's exciting for me about being in another person's body? Or et cetera, so on and so forth. The list goes on. So that's the first thing I can say to gain better control over that. Set some boundaries with yourself energetically that ask you to stay in your body, and then do the shadow work around what it means to stay in your body and why that's uncomfortable for you, or why you feel being in another person's body is better in some way, shape, or form. Um, so that will definitely minimize this by at least 50% of experiences for you, if not 100% of experiences for you. The other part of this is asking why. I think the question why in the psychic world is so powerful when it comes to experiences like this. So ask yourself, what am I gaining from this experience? Why, spirit, are you, or God or goddess, or whatever, why are you leading me to this other person's specific experience? What can I see in this experience as a reflection for myself? Where am I seeing myself reflected in this? What energy codes am I taking away from this? um so yeah, I think that's the best answer I have for that question, and I hope that that's helpful to several people, because I know that so many of you are going through things like this. um and also just like starting to keep tabs too on when it's happening. Doing some mood tracking or emotion tracking or activity, just tracking in general. Track everything that's going on, you guys. When this happens, when you feel yourself leaving your body, or you feel yourself experiencing other person's experiences or whatever, track what's going on at that point in time. Is it that, there's somebody in your environment who's triggering you and you do a leaving pattern? Is it that you ate a certain food that maybe you have a reaction to and that's what's sending you up and out? Is it, that, I don't know, whatever, you're trying to procrastinate writing a research paper? I don't know. Like, it could be any number of things, but track what's going on every single time that this happens. See if there's some sort of pattern there for you to be able to follow. Hey, Sam, thanks for being here. Um, See if there's some sort of pattern for you to be able to follow, to track when these psychic experiences are occurring for you, and you might be really surprised as to what you find. And then when you find that correlation, boom, shadow work. And as soon as you do that shadow work and try to understand, oh, okay, like this is why I do this leaving pattern or whatever it is, then you will be able to cut down on the amount of times that this experience happens, and it'll give you a lot more control over it. Um, and you can also become cognizant too of like, oh, okay, this is this activity at this point in time that's happening. And so every single time you're about to do that activity and you know that it has led to you leaving your body in the past, you can look at that and say, oh, okay, great. I know I'm about to enter this activity. I'm going to be really mindful right now not to leave my body after. Um, I do think it's really interesting though, this one clause in this question. I noticed once I was in a calm state, I can feel energy around me. Um, so yeah, obviously getting yourself to kind of a more neutralized state is going to make you more aware of the energies that are surrounding you. And actually getting into that calm state, really tuning into what you're feeling, is going to give you a bit more control over it as well. So let's see. From there, I'm gonna go on to this next question: tips on safer astral travel. Because I feel like that's just directly related to everything I just read about, and answered. Tips on safer astral travel. Y'all, I did a legit full blown free masterclass on this. On the Witchestea Saginaw page on Facebook. Go look it up. It's there. I will link it in the comments. I have to run right after this live, but I will link it in the comments sometime tonight or tomorrow, on Facebook, and then Instagram, there might be a link in my bio to it still. I can't remember if I took that down already, but there's a full-blown masterclass on how to safely astral travel whilst also staying in your anchored in your physical body. So lots of gold in that one, and I'm just going to defer you there because there's a lot of gold in it. All right, let's see. I got a little bit of a later start, so I'm happy to go a little bit later here. All right. I have heard that the vagus nerve is a really central part. I love this question. I've heard that the vagus nerve is a really central part to connecting mental health and the body. Can you talk more about its function? This is another one of those questions, you guys, that I'm going to be hard pressed not to do a full blown podcast episode on this because there is so much here. The vagus nerve is one of the coolest, epicest, that's a word today, part of the human body ever. So it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's actually the longest nerve in our body. So it starts at the base of our skull, the back of our skull, base of our skull, and it travels all the way down the spine to the tailbone. For women, it actually branches out at the bottom and connects directly to your cervix. For men, pelvic floor. I guess for women, pelvic floor as well. And when I say men and women, I'm talking about female sexed organ, men, women, female, male, body, born thing. Words today are hard for me, guys. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time channeling today, but I am, which is funny because earlier it just seemed to be flowing through. So, yeah, basically, the vagus nerve is, it kind of looks like a tree. Actually, it does look like a tree. It's pretty epic. It connects to the bottom of the brain. What does the top of the brain look like? It looks like the top of a tree. The nerve goes all the way down the spine like a trunk, and at the bottom, it literally fans out into these little like tendrils that look like roots. So we have a tree in our bodies. We are fractals as human beings of nature. That's just how this works. We are fractals. The vagus nerve directly connects the brain to the gut. So psychically, we are speaking about like when you get that like gut feeling, it's literally because of the vagus nerve. Like this is literally like the brain gut connection that's happening. And also the reason too that I mentioned the connection to the cervix for people in female born bodies, there we go. That was the phrasing I was looking for. Um, is because it's said that the womb space also houses the intuition as well. And so again, just this direct connection between brain and intuitive space in the body. So I'm going to leave it there for now because I mean, literally I could answer this question for an hour. There is so much here, but that is the surface level of yeah, that vagus nerve connection to the body and to nature and to psychic energy and just epicness. All right, so we are at time. I'm gonna quickly grab a deck and pull a card for y'all for this full moon. And you know what, you guys? I'm specifically being told to grab a deck that I never use. It is the Thoth Tarot. And I never use this deck because there's not some just not great energy with it. It's created by Aleister Crowley, who is somebody who's known for working with false light. The reason I have been called to pick this deck up today specifically is because there is so much collective energy going on right now in terms of being able to transmute false light into truth. And so I think it's really, really, really powerful to pick up this deck and ask that the falsity in it is transmuted into truth. So through all of the kind of like nasty entity energy that is in this deck, asking for that to be transmuted, for the symbology in it to be transmuted and transformed into something that is going to give us a message of truth. So, specifically asking this deck right now, what can we do to find the truth through the illusion in our lives right now? I know this is big. This is up for the collective right now. I love this. All right. There was some vocal sound healing for you in that one too, apparently. All right. So what we got is 8 of Wands, which is swiftness. I absolutely love that. And I'm seeing the symbology here. I'm seeing a rainbow. We're getting some Sagittarius vibes in here. We're getting some Mercury vibes in here. It looks like kind of like a pinwheel. I'm seeing lightning bolts, arrows, just energy kind of going in all directions. It almost looks like, I mean, like we're seeing kind of like this prism that's here. And so I'm almost kind of seeing like, I'm getting this image of like a smoke screen. And I'm getting this image of us kind of like as individuals and as a collective really dialing into the very middle of this smoke screen and just kind of like blowing this thing apart, just completely cutting through the center of it, and it like blasts into a million pieces, and it just kind of like goes in shards everywhere, and it's like boom, and then we see what's behind it, and it's like, ooh, there's the truth. And when I heard what I heard when I said we see what's behind it, what I heard was collective. So I'm interpreting that as when we step into our truth and we step into the truth of our individuality and we step into the truth of our light as individuals, we are also stepping into truth as a collective. You bringing yourself fully. And I love this message to wrap up this live, you guys, because it goes back to so much of what I was saying, because like in terms of what's going on energetically in our collective right now. When we step into our truth as individuals, we realize that it is each of our very, very necessary, unique individual gifts that contributes to collective truth. Oh, this aligns so much for me right now. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you, Kendra. I think that is Kendra. I think that's Kendra's account. I'm so horrible with matching handles to names, you guys. I say this every live. I'm like, I'm trying to get better at this. Hope that's right. I hope that's you, Kendra. Might be very, very wrong about this. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I will not be embarrassed. So yeah, there we are. Here we are, here we grow. Swiftness. Big slash through. And I love too that this swiftness comes with wands and not with swords, because it's not like we're cutting through anything. We're just like flick of the Nicole. See, all right, Nicole. I'm going to remember this. I'm going to try my best to remember this. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Nicole. Okay. I'm a little embarrassed. I said I wouldn't be. I'm a little embarrassed. Okay, so. Anyways. Yes. And I love this number 8 too, because we have kind of like the infinity sign there, right? We have the infinity sign for the 8. 8 is so much about integrating energy into the physical physical manifestation. I've been talking about integrating, anchoring in all of these external dimensional, extra dimensional energies into the 3D, etc., so on and so forth. So that 8 is really helping us as well. So, thanking this card for helping us to anchor in these energies, give names to them. Good. It made you giggle, and it's all good. You're a Libra, so you're flexible with your name. I love that. However you appear today, if that appears to be a good thing, then I guess you're a Kendra. No, I see you as a Nicole, so that's good. Thank you. All right, my loves. It has been so, so wonderful to sit here with you today and sit in this energy here with you today, sit in community with you here today. I know so many of you have been looking for a little bit of extra solace and affirmation, and just know that every single one of you is needed right now. Every single one of you is completely 150% needed right now to fight this good fight, to step in as the peaceful warrior, to step in as your unique self, as your unique truth. So thank you for being here, for being a part of this community, for being a part of this collective. And if you are wanting more information to just learn, I feel like so many people are here right now wanting to learn more and just really, really thirsty for knowledge about the psychic world and about energy and about how it interacts with our physical, mental, emotional health, all one and the same, right? Um, if you're wanting more information on that from me specifically, be sure to like Doorway to Self on Facebook, like the Doorway to Self podcast on Facebook, follow at Doorway to Self and at the Doorway to Self podcast on Instagram. You can also follow my personal journey at rachel.leah.gerson on Instagram. You can find my services and how to work with me on doorwaytoself.com. You can also sign up for the email list there, and I will be sending out an email on March 1st. I send out an email on the 1st of every month, kind of diving into the energies of the month to come, along with like a little calendar of like specific numerological portal days, astrologically potent days, full new moons, etc. And then whatever upcoming events I have for that month. So if that's stuff you want to opt into, definitely put your email into the subscriber list there. And be sure to check out the Doorway to Self podcast, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, on my website. It's literally everywhere. Just search it, it'll come up. And I will be posting this replay with all of the timestamps to YouTube within the next couple of days. So that's all. I love you all so, 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 so dearly. I'm just really, really grateful that you're here, and really grateful that you are doing the work on yourselves. So thank you for showing up for yourself and for the collective at this point in time, because we freaking need you right now. We really need you. And yeah, I love you so, so dearly. And I hope you take care. Bye.